Leeds United have successfully overcome QPR in a match that could prove to be quite controversial in the coming days. We will get to that in a minute. I'm just going to talk through some of the major talking points from the match, a little bit of the controversy that happened towards the end there, and ultimately what it means for Leeds United in the table at the moment and our direction of travel. First up, we really have to talk about the first goal, which was the only goal, come to think of it. And Somerville was one of the main stars of the match, where in our most recent match, you could see he was sort of blending into the background a little bit, not doing enough against Southampton. He definitely turned it around today. He was a high energy, all action kind of player, taking on opponents all the time. Towards the end, he moved into a number 10 role rather than on the wing, but that's completely fine because it worked out for him. Crescencio Somerville, when he's on his day, is one of the best players that Leeds United have available, and he really sort of proved that to us today. The fact is, he's not always going to be that 10 out of 10, but when he's firing, he is firing on all cylinders. On the opposite flank, we also saw Jaden Anthony doing his thing, which was quite nice. It was his first start at Leeds United, and it worked really, really well for him. He's not afraid to take on a defender. He can put in a good ball from time to time. I thought he got unlucky a couple of times where he might have, with a little bit more finishing, had a goal, but it wasn't quite to be this time. He's already had his debut goal for Leeds United. Another would be a bit greedy. Um, yeah, he's someone else that I think will consistently start. He'll be fighting Nonto for that position in the team, I think, when Nonto is back to full fitness. We'll see who the better winger is, but at the moment, Anthony, I have absolutely no problem with him being a first team player. In addition to that, Jorginho Rutter was just doing his thing again and again and again. His footwork is absolutely magical, and there aren't many centre backs in the league that can really deal with him. The longer we can hold on to him and keep him developing, even into the Premier League, the better chance I think we have of continuing to grow as a club, even after promotion. He's just really good, isn't he? I mean, you can see why he costs £35 million, and he's probably one of the most expensive players in the Championship at the moment, but he's sort of proving himself to be worth it. He's creating chances. Didn't put any away today, but you can see his value there. In addition to that, those three players I just mentioned had a really sort of flexible front line. There was something I noticed the QPR commentator saying at one point where he said at first that Somerville was out on the left wing, then he corrected himself to Jaden Anthony, and in reality it was Jorginho Rutter. Now, the fact that I'm not going to get into the sort of behind the scenes potential biases of why he said that, but there is an underlying point there. There is the fact that all three of our attackers can play in those positions behind Joel Pirro really successfully because they're all really good with their feet. They're fantastic at passing. Another thing I noticed with Rutter was the first thing that happened for Bamford after he came on was Rutter played a fantastic through ball that just set him through. And that was a real sign of what was to come. I feel like that flexibility in the front line means that we can pull defenders apart more often. And the more we do that, the better chance we have in the Championship. Championship defenders are not that good. I keep saying it, and we keep proving it by having chance after chance. However, Joel Pirro was a little bit quiet for my liking. We only scored the one goal, and that was scored by Crescencio Somerville. Pirro isn't going to score every single week. That's fine. But in a week where we're putting a lot of balls across the box, we're creating chances and we're not finishing them, that's sort of why we signed Pirro. We could have won this 3 or 4-0. We were unlucky to not, to be honest, but Pirro being a little bit more clinical would have been fantastic, cleaned up the match early, and meant that we weren't scrambling a little bit towards the end. In addition to that, Bamford returned. The very first thing that Patrick Bamford did was cause them problems. Brilliant running behind, through ball from Jorginho Rutter. I think he won a corner from that. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but it's a sign that his footballing mind and his idea for movement is still there. That's not gone, and I think that was one of the most important parts of his game. His physicality, we will get to in a little bit, but he also managed to win a red card for their goalkeeper. I don't know whether I want to have my Leeds hat on for this or I want to have my unbiased sort of viewer hat on for this, but it definitely wasn't a red card. I'm not convinced there was contact between Begovic and Bamford. If you felt something, then fair enough, and there's room for doubt within the video itself. But I feel like Bamford might have felt something and gone down because he knows the goalkeeper's going to get sent off. He tends to like to play the referees, Patrick Bamford, and this was another example of him doing that. And the longer it works for him, fine, I guess. It feels a little bit dodgy to be cheering it on, but if it pays off, the issue is when it doesn't. So against Villa a few years back, where he pretended he'd been punched or something like that in the fray after that Klitsch goal. You hope he stays on the right side of referees because as someone that's consistently injured, him also getting banned would not be good. Another great thing for our side this match, and we're going away from the attack this time, was the sheer dominance in defence. For the first 80 minutes or so, whenever we had the ball, we were happy to have it at the back because their press wasn't doing anything. They weren't pressing us off the ball like we were pressing them, and their attacks weren't really doing too much. If they were getting to the back line, then Strauch and Rodon are good enough to clean it up. The fullbacks, this time, I think Ayling did really well in terms of getting back, and Archie Gray is still wonderful. I'll get into him a little bit more in a minute, but when Ayling pushes on really high, Gray is happy to drop into that right back role and cover for him. That's a really good thing to do because we sort of need it when Ayling is going to eventually run out of legs. That might change when we've got Jed Spence in the side and he's returned from injury, but we'll see. It's not an issue for now. In addition to that, Meslier was quiet but very, very composed. His passing was one of the most important things to note tonight. The only times he kicked the ball directly out of play were when he was given a hospital pass by Joe Rodon once or twice. He dealt with things really, really well tonight, I think, Eli Meslier. And when he needed to make a save, he did, standing up nice and tall, taking it directly to the chest and stopping what would have been a depressing equaliser. Meslier had a fantastic match, even though he didn't really do much. And I think a lot of our defensive dominance came from fantastic control of the midfield. Ampadu is one of the best midfielders in this division. No one will convince me otherwise, because he's so incredibly good at winning the ball and just calmly recycling possession to the more creative players. He knows he doesn't need to be the one to play that killer through ball or take someone on or take a shot. He knows his role is to win the ball, play it off, and then the match happens in front of him. He can keep scanning, he can win the ball back. He's just such an industrious, intelligent player. It's fantastic. And Archie Gray is remarkable and continues to be very, very good. There was one point where he was getting pressed by 2 or 3 QPR players and he just dribbled and danced through them. He's so composed for a 17-year-old that it honestly blows my mind sometimes. He's one of the better youngsters in the league, that is without a doubt. And I saw someone say before the match that they were concerned that Kamara couldn't play this game. I remembered that Daniel Farke said that we had a few knocks remaining from Southampton, and I imagined that Kamara was someone that we'd rotated out just to keep them safe. I have no issue with bringing Archie Gray in because he's just a very good player. He's at least at the standard of the average championship midfielder, and bringing him in as a rotation option is a luxury. And I wouldn't mind him as a full-on starter. It honestly blows my mind a little bit. Farke's changes as well are definitely something to be noted. This is primarily looking at the substitutions, and it was a great way of keeping the squad nice and rotated and keeping them all fit and healthy. Being able to take off Jadon Anthony for Daniel James and Crescencio Somerville for Jan Poveda, and towards the end, Ruter for Charlie Cresswell, but that's more of a defensive move, means that all of those attacking players stay nice and fresh for the match that's coming up at the weekend. I think it's against Bristol City. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to very quickly check now. I've got the table over there just to see where we are towards the end of the match. Yes, it's Bristol City coming this Saturday, which we should be okay with because we've got nice, fresh attacking players. We can now choose, do we want Bamford or Piru? Do we want the finishing or do we want the clever movement? And the idea that we have all of this depth means that Farke has such an incredible toolkit that when he makes the changes, you know he's making them for a reason. Finally, what does this all mean looking forwards? And I ultimately think that our high-pressing, highly engaged style means incredibly good things for Leeds United going into the future. We're incredible at creating opportunities. Finishing isn't quite there, but that's going to come with a little bit of form. Good at controlling the midfield, good in defence, and I think this is a side that can genuinely push for automatic promotion, in spite of the fact that we are currently 9 points behind those places in the league. Up in 6th at the moment, that's a nice playoff spot, and I feel like we've not even gotten started yet. We are just getting the ball rolling, getting a little bit of momentum, and the longer we spend with this this squad, the better. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like the video. I am really happy that you've watched this far because it means so much. We are very, very close towards monetization on the YouTube channel now, and it's massively appreciated for every single minute that you watch. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you later.